The Building Brands podcast is dedicated to exploring the journeys of industry leaders who have successfully built a brand. Join me, Robert Royer, president of Building Brands Marketing, and an entrepreneur who has successfully scaled multiple brands as we dive deep into the strategies, challenges, and insights that have shaped the success of industry leaders and provide you with the resources you need to do the same. Building Brands Marketing is a full-service marketing agency specializing in crafting customized marketing strategies for service-based businesses with a creative powerhouse to drive real results. Welcome to the Building Brands Podcast. Welcome to the Legal Leaders series of the Building Brands Podcast. Today, we welcome Michael Panella, founder and attorney of the Panella Law Firm. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me, Robert. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So kick us off. What inspired you to launch the Panella Law Firm?
Well, Panella Law Firm was kind of an accident in the sense of the timing of when it happened. I mean, the fact of the matter is I was a happy public defender. I knew I wanted to do criminal defense since I was before I went into law school, and it's something that I kind of felt like a calling. So being a public defender was, in my opinion, and still is, God's work. And so I considered it a privilege to be in that environment. Maybe one day down the line, open my own firm or something like that. But the fact is, when I was practicing as a PD, there was a big case that happened. And in fact, it involved law enforcement breaking, what we consider to be illegally making an arrest at a person's house. And they were trying basically to go after his niece for misdemeanor prostitution. It was sort of like a training exercise for some of the other more junior law enforcement officers in the special investigations unit. Anyway, they stung her, but didn't identify themselves as law enforcement, not in a meaningful way. And she thought she was being kidnapped. And she was forcibly removed from her home, all for a misdemeanor warrantless arrest. It was kind of an illegal arrest anyway, because it was in Florida, it was for a misdemeanor and it didn't occur in law enforcement's presence. But the technicalities aside, a horrible scenario ensued. And she was ripped out of her home, drug into the front yard, and screaming for her life, thinking that, she was going to be, in her words, sold into human trafficking. So anyway, she was living with my client, a guy who ended up becoming my client because he had taken her in because she was having some trouble. And he came out and saw her struggling with three guys in the night at, with like pitch dark out there. And he came out basically with a gun, fired in the air, and said, what's going on here? And tragically, they all turned around, and it turned out they were special investigations unit law enforcement in tack vests and mostly in plain clothes, and started unloading on my guy and shot him a couple times. Wow. He shot back and tragically hit one of the people that turned out to be a cop. And that guy almost died. Even the woman who was caught in the middle was grazed once, and it was just an all-out firefight in the middle of a quiet neighborhood from a botched raid that really shouldn't have happened. But the sheriff's office turned around and charged my client with 3 counts of attempted first-degree premeditated murder of a law enforcement officer. Any one of those counts would have been punishable by life. They charged the niece with the misdemeanor solicitation that they were trying to get her on in the first place. And the point of the story is, as a public defender, I got the niece's case. And it was partly because I had some experience doing media work even before I became a lawyer, and while I was in law school, and some other big cases and stuff like that. So they gave me this media case, and I handled it. And afterwards, the family asked if I was willing to take the real one, the big one, of the uncle in this murder case. But the problem was that the public defender's office had asserted a conflict because I had represented the niece. And really, they didn't want this case because it was political. It was against the sheriff's office. Yeah. And so they said, hey, as an office, we're conflicted off, even though I was being asked personally to represent this guy. And so I had to quit. So the only way to represent him in this case that I really believed in, which was a self-defense and defense of others case, based on, what I perceived to be in law enforcement actions that were not justified, was to quit. And so I opened Panella Law Firm way earlier than I would have, with no money and really one client who also couldn't pay. And that was the beginning of that, to take this thing on. And we did. And we fought that case for 4 years and ultimately won in a crazy way, up on appeal. Stand your ground laws implicated. We created case law in that thing. And thank God that client is a free man today. But that was the origin story of how Panella Law Firm happened.
That's incredible. I mean, that's how it happens sometimes, right? Like what pushes you to entrepreneurship is like the last thing you thought that was going to, be the domino that would make it fall. For myself, with my ex-employer, I got wrapped up in a real nasty lawsuit with every single employee. The employer and every employee got sued individually. And that was what pushed me to start building brands marketing. And like, you never would have expected, okay, that it's going to be a lawsuit that jumps you. Because when you go through, just like criminal, right? When you go through a lawsuit with other people, people's true character come out and you identify who you want to be in business with, who you want to work with, and so it's funny the way things happen. So talk to me, like, what is the biggest mindset shift that happened going from the public defender's office to opening up your own firm?
Well, I mean, at first it was a question of, can we even do this, right? Can we survive? Yeah. And I'm married. And so I'm a huge believer in that being a team effort, right? So even though my wife's not an attorney, she is my partner, like in all that we do. And so getting her buy-in was pretty significant. And it was going in this case, I think opening any business is a risk, right? Any sort of entrepreneur endeavor is going to inherently come with risk. But I also think that I can't think of a good thing in this world that comes easy and without sacrifice and hard work. Us talking about that, like, hey, can we even survive this? It was a question of, her willing to make deep sacrifices, and me too. And getting rid of one of the coolest things about the public defender's office is the health insurance. I mean, the benefits are almost as much as your salary, really. And so we would have been giving up that. And we had just had a new baby. I mean, it was a scene, man. So, but she was willing to go along with it and us basically work on her salary alone. And we had mapped it out. Like, can we do that for like a year if we don't even make any money at this law firm endeavor? And the answer ultimately was, it'll be tight, but we'll do it. I mean, we're going to make it work. And so I think a mindset shift, it was, all encompassing, because we're going from security to zero security. And then on top of that, if we lose, that sucks, because it's the wrong result for this client. And yet this is my first, and we're kind of like, what kind of reputation is that? Like, hey, first try, and you went up against the sheriff's office and a bunch of judges that hate you, and everyone wanting to make sure that you lose and cover things up. It's like, and there's no resources really. So I was fortunate also. And one big lesson I learned was ask for help. And so I did. I had mentioned that I was a part of a really like an internationally large media case prior to this. And I wasn't a lawyer yet, but one of the attorneys on that case, both of the main attorneys I still are mentors and I still greatly respect, but one of them was willing to actually do this one with me. And so I think one of the big lessons was, I called him and I'm like, look, man, like, I'm about to jump off a freaking plane without a parachute. Can you like help? And he said he would. And I think that helped me in my mindset to say, like, all right, this guy believes in me and he's willing to help me too. And so I think there was a mindset shift there about being willing to ask for help, being willing to take the help, and also recognizing like trying to overcome imposter syndrome in the sense of like, well, this guy thinks I can do it. I don't know that I can, but at least someone that I respect thinks I can. So let me go for it. And so I think that there was a lot of trying to overcome my own fear and my own insecurities in that way, but also like lessons learned about like, okay, yeah, definitely like get some mentors in your corner with whatever your endeavor is going to be if it's something brand new to you, but don't let that convince you that you can't do it. Just let it convince you that like, hey, know enough to know what you don't know and ask for some help. But Robert, over the next several years, there were mind shift after mind shift after mind shift, going from this is just about the work and the passion, like a public defender has the privilege of that, right? Because they don't have to worry about bringing the next case in, to, oh, wait a second, like we actually do have to keep the lights on at some point. And so that was a huge learning curve, what it ultimately metastasized into.
Yeah, I know that you're fortunate, and well, I would consider it fortunate where you got to deal with some really high profile cases right off the jump, which gets you, some good experience under your belt in the right scenarios to really build that confidence. I talk about it all the time on this show with service-based businesses. Confidence is half the battle. Having the true, authentic confidence of, the experience and walking into a situation knowing that, hey, you're ready to deal with this scenario. I believe that high profile case that you're referring to that you were connected to early on in your career is the George Zimmerman case. Is that correct?
That's true.
Yeah. So how did a high profile case like that, and then the latter case that you were just describing in just a second ago, how did those shape the way that you approach criminal defense today?
Well, not every case is like that, right? Not every case is something that the news is interested in. But I'll tell you, going through something like the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman case, especially before I was in law school when that happened. And then I became part of that team and worked on it all the way through to the end. And I even finished my last year of law school in Orlando to make sure that I can stay and do that. I mean, I was asked to do that. And so I took the call, right? And said, okay. But man, that was a nasty case because it sucked all around. Nothing was good about it. Like, it was horrible that Trayvon was killed. Right or wrong, legally justified or not, that's still not okay. I mean, it's been 13 years and I still think about that. It's not okay that George was inappropriately vilified and lied about in the media, and the actual facts of the case were so misconstrued and intentionally misrepresented by media outlets to sensationalize that thing, and he became demonized unfairly. So on every level, that case was just mischaracterized and screwed up from jump. And then it brought out like everything racist about everything horrible about our country was like on full display in that case. I think there's good people on that looked at this thing and would say, hey, like maybe we can see both sides of it. But what seemed to be the case, at least being on ground zero and receiving death threats every day, like every day, in our office, was the worst of both sides. You would see white supremacist idiot jerk morons that were basically like praising the actions of George Zimmerman, which that's horrible. Like I'm a criminal defense attorney and we focus on serious criminal crimes, like what I'm talking about, like homicide and violent stuff. But I'm never like happy that somebody is injured or hurt or killed or whatever. Like, I'm like a concealed weapon permit holder that never carries a gun because I know what I know, like so often it's just ends in tragedy. So I have like that kind of perspective on this whole thing. But yeah, there's people saying, that were like excited, happy that this, I'm not, like no one on the defense team was happy. Like, and then there's people on the other side saying that George was a white supremacist, racist murderer when the facts of that case wasn't true at all. Right. So you just saw a lot of that. And I think like the worst in people. And it was also just a very sad thing. So my first cut of my teeth of criminal defense from like that perspective, although I had worked in the field even before that, earlier in law school, was really extreme. And I think it helped inform me that sometimes law isn't necessarily about the law. And it may also not really be about the facts. A lot of times it's about perception. And when you've got a high profile case, like the other one I'm talking about, like the one that ultimately was mine, that was nowhere near as big, but it was a big deal regionally. Perception was the whole thing. My guy was charged because I firmly believe because the sheriff's office had a black eye if he wasn't. I mean, one of their guys almost got killed. Another, like my client almost got killed. The girl almost got killed. Like everyone's shooting at everybody, all because they botched a raid that shouldn't have happened. So, okay, let's charge him.
Yeah, someone had to.
So like I had to kind of like, the notion of the law is somehow fair, just, and equal became disabused. Like very much so early on, like realized, no, like that can't be true, because look at how it plays out in real life. So I feel like that helped me kind of like inform the way that I approach cases from this is a human endeavor. Like the entrepreneurial aspect of owning a law firm is a human endeavor. The law itself is administered by humans, like judges and lawyers and courtroom deputies and clerks. And so like, if you're not like tapping into the human side of like whatever it is that you're up to, especially in law, like you're just going to get like, you're going to miss it. You're going to be like a person on another planet that doesn't recognize the fact that, for example, I've been super long-winded in this answer and I'm aware of that, and that you've probably got something else to say and I need to shut up. Like, be self-aware. And inside of criminal law, like if you're not self-aware and aware of like the context surrounding these sterile facts and the sterile law, like you're probably not going to be a very good attorney.
Yeah. In your experience, you like really worked really quickly to get into the trial space, right? And you've built a really, really strong reputation. I've done my research on you online. I know we talked previously prior to today. You built a strong reputation in your area of Florida as a strong trial attorney, which, is trial is a funny thing to me when I think about trial attorneys, because at the beginning stages, everybody just has to be kind of thrown into the fire at one point. You touched earlier of how you had a mentor that really helped you at the beginning stages when you were getting your trial experience under your belt. I'm curious, could you talk to me, elaborate a little bit of how that mentor helped you overcome some of the fears, the imposter syndrome, things of that nature, to really build that resume experience?
Yeah, sure. I feel really fortunate because I feel like I've had several. And as a 1L in law school, I went to UF for law school, and they had this rule that you couldn't work in your first year of law school. But I had an opportunity was floated to me by a professor, and he said, look, there's this really respected criminal defense firm that is looking for a clerk, they called it. And that's up in Gainesville. He's basically, I can help you get an override and work for them in the second semester 1L. So I did. And right there, like I went for it because I'm like, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, knew nothing. And I'm like, I need to go get some experience. So I was really lucky even then. And I had mentors in that firm. And that's what launched me into the next one, which was at the Zimmerman, which was, the firm that ultimately had that case, which was a well-respected firm in Orlando, still is. And the main attorney in that case took, when I went to him with my UF Padfolio shaking and my, resume and cover letter, he looked at it and said, oh, you've got like another mentor, like this guy I know from Gainesville. And I'll tell you right now, like that's what did it. I mean, there was like a million people trying to like get in on that, but like I had someone vouch for me, and then all of a sudden this guy was willing to, let me join. And then from there, another attorney, senior, like really incredible guy, came on as co-counsel. Like my guy, Mark, who was the main attorney, brought on a guy named Don West, and they were the two lead attorneys. And Don and Mark, I consider to be mentors to this day. And for the 2 years that we worked on that case and took me under their wing, I was able to ask any kinds of questions. But I was more important, like I went to every hearing. So I was able to see these guys at like a very high level litigating really complicated pretrial things.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate that they asked me to help. So here I am on Westlaw or Lexus or whatever the heck we had at the time at
Yeah.
1 o'clock in the morning, researching these issues on how to keep out sound waves from, a sound clip of someone screaming, or how to keep their expert from saying that it was something that we believed it wasn't. And it's like, what are these nuanced issues? I don't know, but I'm like a 2L in law school trying to figure it out for these guys that are going to go on TV and litigate it tomorrow. So, real lucky. So having a mentor, how did that play out? Like, okay. So then when it came time to go to the public defender's office, I could still call them on my cases. And then the PD's office provided a mentor, and then when it was time to get out and go do this thing that I probably was too young to do, I called one of those guys. I called both of those guys, and one of them said he would help me. So yeah. I mean, I think that's maybe part luck, right? And maybe part of God's grace on my life to provide these people in my life, and then maybe part sheer tenacity by like going out there, just doing it. And maybe part, like, I want to be a really good trial attorney. Can I be a part of this? And watching them.
Maybe part you, right? Like the reality is relationships, right? I hate the saying it's not what you know, it's who you know, because the reality is it's not. It's both. It's what you know and who you know leads you to what you know, even better in many cases. You know what I mean? Like I think a lot of people, especially like newer generations, I'm millennial, right? Newer generations, I think we kind of undervalue the opportunity of relationships in some areas. A lot of the things, different opportunities that have been opened up in my career have centered from a mentorship or a relationship. And I have people that I consider a mentor that vice versa have said, hey, and they're much older than me, say, hey, I consider you a mentor. So like relationships are everything. When you can recognize that, it's really easy to start identifying mutually beneficial kind of components that are like the backbone to business, right?
Yeah.
I think you're in an interesting space, in my opinion, from a marketing standpoint, because there's no shortage of criminal defense attorneys in the Orlando, Florida market, right? Like
sure.
you're in a crowded space. However, you've been able to sink your teeth into some trials that were big profile trials. And I'm curious, in a competitive space like criminal defense in Orlando, Florida, what marketing strategies or branding strategies have you utilized for the firm to stand out?
Well, I mean, are you sharing this with my friends out there?
They might listen in if they see you.
Go ahead and go on mute and answer the question. Look, I think that this is going to sound like a stupid answer, but it's true. I mean, the first thing is do really good work every time, right? Because I don't care. Like, I get that you're a marketing agency and from my research, a pretty darn good one. But I've worked with other marketing agencies and everybody wants to. But here's the thing. All marketing agencies are supplements in my mind to, the go out there, kill something and drag it home. Right. So when you get a client or a customer, freaking kill it, because that guy is going to go tell some other guy, and that other guy isn't going to need you today, but in 4 years. So I think that's the first trick is, I think if you believe in the work that you're doing and it's not just about money, because for me, I already told you, like, it wasn't even about money at all for me. And then I realized, oh crap, like it has to become about money to some degree. We're gonna we can't stay open, right? And I can't take on the type of work I want to do by myself. And so I need to bring other people on, but I gotta be able to pay them. So like, what do we do here? So I had to like learn on the go. And that was a many year process. That's like, I'd say still ongoing, but I think the spirit behind it remains. Like, I believed in the work. I believe in representing people in their most vulnerable situation and in the time when they're scared. And thank God I've walked through it already. I've been through this path before. So I'd like to be a light for the next guy who hasn't and is scared and is calling saying, oh my God, like I am being criminally prosecuted, might go to prison for the rest of my life. Like, I think it's an honor still, even now, right now, for someone to call me and say, Mike, I would like for you to walk this road with me. And for me to say, I want to do that. And I want to get you into the best position possible in your circumstance. Like, that still ignites me. So I think if you're missing that, I don't care if you're putting on roofs. I don't care if you're a mechanic.
Yeah.
If you don't get excited about the work that you're doing and it's about freaking getting another dollar or getting another, whatever. And that's, and the purpose of work is just so you can continue to work to then get another one like, that sucks. And that's going to be noticed. So I think you got to have that fundamental. And if you're in a space that you don't enjoy doing and it doesn't excite you, find a new freaking space, because I think your customer base is going to recognize that. So first and foremost, go kill something, drag it home, and there you go. That is how to be an entrepreneur. As a supplement, realizing that not every day you're going to get a referral. Yeah, I think you got to market. Mm-hmm. And one trick for us, it's not a trick, it's a lot of freaking hard work, but it's video. And so for a while, what I was doing was, all right, let's put together really high quality video product. And there's different schools of thought on this. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but some people say, hey, just take out an iPhone, record some selfies and throw it all over TikTok. I like that idea a lot, actually. But I think that for us, it was, hey, let's at least put some high quality stuff out there, because the types of clients that we're trying to attract and the type of work we're trying to do, and that we believe that we're worth, the value that we're worth is high value, serious clients, right? That are saying, I want the best. So out here putting myself out there, like with a low quality product on our marketing material, I wouldn't want to hire me, right? So if I believe that if you're showing a lot of effort on the front end, as like your front door to your, your original handshake to somebody, like looking at your website, looking at your social media stuff, if it's not like decent quality to like really good quality, like freaking don't do it. My current marketing team that I use for some of our stuff put together a video product. It took them 6 months. I took it and we scrapped it. They came out, I scrapped it. Like, they wanted to go live. And then they were like, all right, well, and it was expensive too. And then they were asking, well, let's come out and reshoot. We came out and reshot. They redid the edit. It was horrible, in my opinion. I asked them to redo the edit. It was horrible. I scrapped the entire project straight up. I wasn't like, oh no, we've put money into this, we should do it.
Yeah.
No. So I think super high quality, when you're putting yourself out there, it's got to be authentic and it's got to be high quality. And I think that's a secret weapon that like a lot of people just don't do, because either they don't have the time. I don't either. No one freaking does, but like, no, what are you going to do? Or, they're just kind of like trusting their you. And I don't trust you, and I don't trust any of the other yous. And when a you comes over and gives me something that I think looks like crap, I'm like, scrap it.
Yeah. Michael, let's pause for a second. There's a lot to unpack here, and I love where you're going with this. There's a whole lot to unpack. So let's back up a step to the first thing. Okay, imagine this, right? All the marketing in the world can't fix a crappy product or service, right? Yeah. And especially with a service-based entity like lawyers, like marketing agencies, right? So all the marketing in the world can't fix it. I think that's where a lot of people go astray. Our first 3 or 4 years in business, this is crazy. We're an advertising agency, right? Never spent $1 on marketing the first 3 or 4 years. Our job was to become as good as we can on the fulfillment side, experts at what we do in fulfilling the craft and in the service we deliver, where, hey, our value will speak for itself at that point, and then we can dump a lot into the marketing and we could raise prices and all this stuff, right? To think about the business aspect after we became masters of our craft. So the first thing, and you touched on, this is actually a core value of mine, is like execute with passion. That's what I call it. Execute with passion. I want to execute with passion in what I do, because the people, when you get down the line and you're able to be more selective over your clients with someone like yourself that's really built your portfolio, built your experience, you can start to pick the clients you want to work with more. And you're looking for that same kind of thing on the other side of the desk. Hey, the same person who has the right passion, who's going to give you all the all the communication and the inputs you needed, so I think like it's a lot more than just, hey, market the heck out of something. You have to have a good product, good customer service, good customer journey, all that to begin with. And I think too many people don't look at that aspect of it. They have a crappy intake process, so they're losing leads, all those sorts of things. Secondly, moving to the video component, you are a thought leader. You're an industry expert. It's one of the reasons I wanted you on the show. Well, when people are calling the Panella Law Firm, they want to work with Michael Panella, and you're the person that they know, right? A lot of people, why do they want to work with, what makes them choose a certain criminal defense attorney? A lot of times it's trust, that like they know, like, and trust you. They know that you know what you're doing. And then they want you to be accessible. They want to work with you, right? So I think with your video approach, you're absolutely right. Like it needs to be you, needs to be authentic, can't be too scripted, needs to be an organic feel, needs to be you really educating people, informing them, building that social proof and that trust. But it does have to be a certain level of quality. It can't be simple iPhone on a gimbal, you walking around. It could be if it's like edited together in a way, or it's following some trends that cater to the algorithms. But I think that like in your case, what you're talking about is so critical. The quality has to be there, but it still has to be authentic because you're leveraging your personal brand through the corporate brand at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's right. Yeah. And oh, go on. I don't want to cut you off.
No. Well, what I'm just wondering is like, I think what you're really leveraging is trust and authenticity in your marketing message, which I think is something that a lot of attorneys don't do well. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, I could talk about that all that. What you're curious about what?
I'm curious what your take is on that. Like, am I wrong? Like, do you think that you're better at establishing trust and authenticity through your market message and other firms? Is that something you think everybody does well? I'm just curious to get your take on that.
Well, you've got two problems. Well, two things to discuss, in my opinion, on that. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if I'm better. Well, I do think that we put a lot of effort into what we put out. That's what I would say. Whether that's better or worse than somebody else's effort, that's not even like, that's a perception thing.
Sure. Subjective.
But what matters to me is like, okay, do we put out high quality work with our work itself in front of judges, other attorneys, our clients, and do we put out a consistent message that is the same, right? Like of high quality work when it comes to our marketing materials and whatnot. This is Princess Peach, by the way. I don't know if you see her. Yeah. She's my girl.
Hey.
Yeah, I know. So, but here's the thing. Like if those two things are inconsistent, like you could spend $10,000 on a video, but if you're a crappy attorney, everyone's like, look at that idiot attorney with a really nice video. Like you're almost like a fool. Yeah. Like you've got to be consistent throughout, which is why I gave the example earlier of this other video that I didn't think was up to our standard. And so I'm like, I'm just not going to do it. But here's the thing. Like I see too many videos that make me feel like sick inside. Like I feel like a 13-year-old kid watching daytime television because I'm homesick from school in between the Oprah show and somebody's commercials on. And I'm like, what freaking year is it? Like, again, about being self-aware and, you gotta like, when I see these lawyer commercials, I want to throw up like so often. And something like that with like goofy music and, just all kinds of tropes. I do think our stuff's better. But the reason I think that is because I think we put more effort into it. We thought about it, Yeah. You got to think about what you're doing. But so in that regard, like you can tell when someone like hasn't put much thought into something. Like in that regard, I have no problem saying, I think our stuff's better. And I hope it is because we're like putting thought into it. And it's a lot of work to do that. It's not, the problem though, that I think comes is scalability because I don't want this to be the Mike Panella show. And it's a problem because you're right. People might see a video or something or whatever, and say, I just want Mike. But the fact of the matter is I can't be everywhere at once, and one person can only do so much. And
Yeah.
it's a recipe for burnout, especially for lawyers.
Yeah.
And so I would I think that the trick is having consistent high quality representation across the firm, whether it's me personally handling the case or one of our other attorneys. And at the moment, we have two other attorneys. We have an
Yeah.
incredible support staff as well. And so while we're small, it's not just me. I mean,
Yeah.
we're the size that I want to be, that I believe we can do incredibly consistently effective work across the board, no matter who is assigned to your case. And the other cool thing is we all work on each other's cases. So I'm aware of every case that's going on in our firm, even
Yep.
if I'm not the one that's personally, but there, so I think that you do have to combat that when it comes to video marketing, because if they think oh, I didn't get the good one. I mean, there's things. Go ahead.
That's a great point, Michael. See, and that's like honestly the largest challenge at a certain point in the firm size. When you're at that certain like 3 to 4 year mark, and you're in the 7-figure range, you have to start to overcome that scalability problem. It was the same problem. It's one of the reasons that we're not Royer and Associates and we're building brands marketing. It was the whole idea from day one of creating a scalable product down the road. Now, that's a great conversation, because the conversation that I like to have with people is, look, I am very good at some things in this area of what I do for a living, right? And there's some things I'm very good at. There are some things that I am not the best at. I might be okay at, but there is someone in this company who is much better at that. So, for example, I'm a numbers guy. Yeah, I'm a numbers guy. I'm a financial guy. I'm a communications guy. I am not a graphic designer, and I don't pretend to be. So when you start asking me creative ideas and assessing your creative elements within the videos and colors and whether this color palette is correct, I'm not the person. We've got a creative director who's way better at that. Bring them into the conversation. And believe me, this is of the benefit. And this is where people miss the mark sometimes in their marketing, Michael. When they're messaging that, you have to be able to communicate to, your prospective clients and your current clients. You were better off with this other assets that's within the organization, because you're better served by having this team dynamic with each of us being really good at our areas rather than one person trying to be pretty good at everything. You know what I mean?
100%. And I think that I think I can get better at that. I'm trying to get better at that. I still have a long way to go with the marketing, side of that, because the truth is there are other attorneys in our firm that are better at certain things than I am. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I hired them. Right? Like,
exactly.
So, a lot of times, there's someone representing somebody in our firm, and they're a better fit for that person for various reasons, and will execute a better product and ultimately result than perhaps I could in that particular case. So that's something that, we think about and whatever. So I think that it's important to be able to communicate, hey, even though I might be the face of it, on some of this stuff that people might see, that no, we are a team, we are a collective. And the idea would be that the training internally and the culture internally is consistent no matter who you get on your particular case. And I think that we need to do a better job of. That's an area that I know is, we're working on, but need to do a better job of that, because it's true. There's people that are better than me for sure in my own organization.
Yeah, and it's a challenge because not everybody is built to get in front of a camera and do on video, and some people hate that, right? So you don't want to like force square peg into a round hole or whatever they call it, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, one of the easiest low-hanging fruit areas of opportunity for those listening to this show to try to build that message of the other team members in your service-based entity is social proof. So the reality is sometimes it may not be you who needs to say it. It could be a Google review. You comb through your Google reviews and you see, okay, this one Google review about John Smith talking about how he really served me well in this case. And in this parameter, he was really accessible, yada, yada. You could pull some of those reviews, potentially get some testimonials. And you're an attorney. And if you're doing a video testimonial with somebody, you could ask them the leading questions to try to pull that social proof of the other team members on the team. That was a big thing for me because I used to, all of our clients, after a certain amount of time of working with us, I send them a Google review request. Say, hey, can you send us a Google review? Or leave us one. We've been working together a year. And because I was the one asking for it, I found a lot of times they were going, oh, Robert is great. He's great to work with. He's good. And I'm like, that's a problem. Because if you go down our Google review list and everything says Robert is good, Robert is good, Robert is good, and not the team, then you're not really getting the true like experience if you're researching our company of the our quality of service. So I started asking people when I would ask for that review, and out of curiosity, if you enjoyed working with anyone else at the team, could you share your positive experience working with them?
That's a
That
good
one
idea.
guiding question steered the Google reviews to highlight a little bit more of the team. And I told them that would mean a lot to them. They don't get a lot of public recognition, And when someone puts their passion into what you do, and in our business, we're working with other business owners or executives, so this is their livelihood. When you or someone else across the desk executes with passion, you can feel it, and it becomes a very personal connection, like almost an extension of your family. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's a tip.
That's a really great suggestion, by the way. And sure enough, like I'm never more proud than I am when I see like a random Google review show up on our firm page for someone else. Like
Yeah,
it's like the best,
exactly.
it's a weird juxtaposition to be like the owner and face of a company, and yet want to become more invisible. But that's exactly where I feel like I am. And I think that's a growing pain and transition when it comes to business, right? Like you've got to cast a vision, and without a vision, the people perish. And without people, the entire organization perishes. So it's like, all right, how do I better prop these other folks up that are the ones that are just also executing at very, very high levels, and making sure that prospective clients recognize that no, it's not just me, and it doesn't need to be about me. I don't want it to be about me. Yes, it has my name. There's a reason for that. Law firms, traditionally have someone's name, right?
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is we are a team, and Panella Law Firm is a team, and I hand select our group, right?
Yeah.
So they have consistent values, consistent principles, and we are, it's like kind of going, you might like something at McDonald's, and you've got a McDonald's in your neighborhood, but I guarantee you, if you go to one in another state, they have the same thing, right? Like it's a matter
Yeah.
making the point that like, if it's McDonald's, it's this quality. And if I think the goal for any business is, if it has our name on it, no matter who's working on your thing, it has this quality.
Yeah, consistency, right? Service-based entities, that's one of our largest challenges. Congrats, Michael. So you've killed it. You've created, a scalable business, right? A scalable law firm, and not just a job for yourself. And so I'm really, really it's a pleasure to have you on the show. You've done great things over there in the Florida market, which I'm really connected to. I work with a lot of people out there. And so congrats on your success. Where can our viewers and listeners find more about your law firm online?
Robert, it's really been I'm truly honored that you asked me on here, and thanks so much for the time. You can find us at Panella Law Firm, PAN like November, E like Echo, LLA Law Firm, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and PanellaLawFirm.com. And we're thrilled to be able to share our story. And thanks so much, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. Pleasure having you today. Thank you.
You're welcome.